What happens when you throw out a customer only to find out he is your boss? This manager found out the hard way. The showroom floor gleamed under the soft overhead lighting. Each luxury car was positioned like a piece of art. It was not just a dealership. It was a sanctuary for the elite, the kind of place where customers did not ask about the price because if they had to, they did not belong. At the center of it all stood Nicole Harrington, the new general manager. She had worked her way up in the industry, carving a reputation as a no-nonsense professional with an eye for serious buyers and zero patience for joyriders. This dealership, located in Beverly Hills, was not a playground for Instagram influencers or daydreaming 20-somethings. It was for the kind of clientele who signed contracts without hesitation. Nicole adjusted the cuff of her tailored blazer and watched as her team navigated the floor. A salesman chatted with a couple admiring a Lamborghini Urus, while another escorted a suited businessman toward the finance office. Everything was running exactly as it should, until the door swung open. A man walked in alone. Something about him was off. Not that he looked bad, but he definitely did not fit the mold of the usual clientele. Jeans, a worn leather jacket, dark sunglasses. His stride was slow but confident, like someone who had walked into 100 places just like this and never worried about whether he belonged. Nicole's eyes narrowed as he made his way toward a classic red Ferrari Testarossa parked near the showroom entrance. It was a collector's piece priced well into the six figures, not something you just touch without permission. She exhaled sharply. She knew the type, looked like money, acted like money, but was not money. She gave it a minute. Maybe he was just admiring, but when she saw him trail his fingers along the edge of the car's hood, she made up her mind. This was going to be a problem. Nicole straightened her shoulders and walked toward him, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor, but she had no idea just how big of a mistake she was about to make. Nicole approached with measured confidence, her expression neutral but firm. She had dealt with men like this before, ones who wandered in, touched what they should not, asked a few questions, then walked out without spending a dime. The man, still oblivious to her presence, traced the lines of the Ferrari's body like he was recalling an old memory. His fingers hovered over the emblem for a moment before he exhaled, almost nostalgic. Nicole cleared her throat. "Excuse me, sir." The man turned toward her slowly, his sunglasses masking any reaction. She kept her voice polite but direct. "I am the general manager here. Do you need help with something?" For a moment he did not respond. Instead, he gave a slow nod, then spoke in a deep, gravelly voice that carried an air of familiarity. "Yeah, nice car. You got a '72 Daytona in stock?" Nicole's patience thinned instantly. A classic Ferrari Daytona. That was not a casual question. It was the kind of thing a real buyer would already know was not sitting on a showroom floor waiting for a test drive. She tilted her head. "We do not typically keep vintage models available for walk-ins." He gave a small shrug, unbothered. "Ah, well, thought I'd ask." That was enough for her. She had played this game too many times. Some guy walks in, asks about something rare, and when told it is unavailable, launches into a speech about how much money he has and how he knows a guy who can find it cheaper. She forced a tight-lipped smile. "If you are looking to make a serious purchase, I would be happy to set up an appointment with one of our specialists." But instead of agreeing, he gave a low chuckle. That was when she felt it, that tiny spark of irritation. It was not what he said, it was how he said it. The amusement in his voice, like he was entertained. She folded her arms. "Is something funny?" The man tilted his head slightly, as if sizing her up. No, I get it. I do not look the part." Nicole did not confirm or deny it. He was not wrong. His jacket looked lived in, not tailored. His jeans had seen better days, and the boots, the kind of thing you wore on a motorcycle, not while shopping for an exotic car. She kept her tone professional. "We tend to cater to a specific clientele. You understand?" A long pause, then he smiled. It was not a smirk or anything cocky. It was genuine, almost friendly. "Yeah, I understand." Then he turned back to the car, running his hand along the side panel again, and that was when she lost her patience. "Sir, I am going to have to ask you not to touch the vehicles." He lifted his hands in a mock surrender. "Relax, I am just looking." That was it. Enough was enough. Nicole stepped closer, lowering her voice. "This is a high-end dealership, not a museum. If you are just looking, I am going to have to ask you to leave." The man let out a small sigh, shaking his head as he adjusted his jacket. All right, he turned like he was about to go, then stopped. "Actually, mind if I take a look at that Aston Martin in the back?" Nicole nearly laughed. Now he was just wasting her time. She gestured toward the entrance. "Sir, I am asking you to leave now." That was when a low murmur started among the staff. She noticed her assistant manager, Greg, standing a few feet away, his face pale as if he had seen a ghost. The receptionist had her hand over her mouth. Something was wrong. Then, before she could process it, a deep voice boomed across the showroom. "Mr. Stallone, I am so sorry for the delay." Nicole felt her stomach drop. She turned slowly, dreading what she was about to see. The regional director, Robert Tanner, was striding across the room, his arms outstretched in welcome, and in that moment, everything clicked. The man she had just thrown out was not a nobody. He was Sylvester Stallone, and worse, he was not just a customer, he was the new owner. The room fell silent. Nicole's heart slammed against her ribs as she struggled to process what she had just done. Sylvester Stallone, the Sylvester Stallone, stood right in front of her, and she had just treated him like some random guy off the street. Her mouth felt dry. The regional director, Robert Tanner, clapped a hand on Stallone's back, his smile wide and overly enthusiastic. "We are absolutely thrilled to have you here, sir. I apologize for any confusion." Nicole wanted to sink into the floor. Stallone, still standing casually with his hands in his jacket pockets, barely reacted. He just gave a small nod, like none of this was a big deal, but it was. Tanner turned toward Nicole, his expression a mix of panic and forced composure. "Nicole," he said, voice tight, "would you mind explaining?" She could not think, could not move. This was bad, very, very bad. I did not know," she said, forcing the words out. But Stallone cut her off. Nah, she was just doing her job." His voice was calm, almost amused. "Looking out for the place. That's a good thing, right?" Nicole blinked. Wait, was he not mad? Tanner forced a nervous laugh. Of course. But, Miss Harrington is one of our best managers. I assure you this was just a misunderstanding." Nicole could not read Stallone's face. He was not angry, but he also was not brushing it off. He was studying her like he was thinking about something. Then finally he said, "So you are the one running things here?" Nicole nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I was recently promoted." Stallone let out a low, "You know, I gotta say it has been a long time since someone told me to get lost." The room stayed dead quiet. Nicole opened her mouth to apologize again, but he lifted a hand, stopping her. "I get it," he said simply. "You thought I was some guy wasting your time. You got rules. You do not let just anybody walk in and do whatever they want. That is good." Nicole was not sure where this was going, but he continued. "What if I was a real customer? What if I was some guy just dressed down looking to drop a few million here? You would have kicked me out anyway, right?" Her stomach twisted. He was right. She had judged him, assumed, decided who he was based on nothing but a glance. I thought I was protecting the dealership's reputation." Stallone gave a small smirk. "That is the problem," he said. "You were not protecting the dealership. You were protecting your idea of who belongs here." The words hit like a punch. Nicole felt her face heat up. She wanted to argue, to explain herself, but she knew he was not wrong. She had built her career on being sharp, efficient, decisive, but in doing that she had also been too rigid. She had looked at a living legend, a man who had built himself from nothing and assumed he was nobody. But before she could say anything, Stallone turned to Tanner. "We are going to have a little talk," he said. "Let us grab an office." Tanner nodded so fast he almost stumbled. "Of course, sir. Right this way." Nicole watched them walk off, her heart still racing. Was she about to be fired, or was something even worse about to happen? Nicole stood frozen, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on her like a vice. The showroom, usually a place of controlled elegance, now felt hostile. Her employees were watching her, exchanging glances, whispering under their breaths. She knew what they were thinking. She had just humiliated herself. Not just in front of a customer, not just in front of the staff, but in front of Sylvester Stallone, the owner. She forced herself to breathe, keeping her posture straight, but inside, her stomach churned. What was happening in that office right now? Was Tanner scrambling to cover for her? Was Stallone laying out her termination like it was a done deal? Minutes felt like hours. Then the door to the office swung open. Stallone walked out first, his hands still in his pockets, expression unreadable. Tanner followed, his face flushed, eyes darting around like he did not know where to look. Nicole's throat tightened. This was it. She braced herself. Stallone stopped in front of her, studying her for a moment, Then in that same calm, measured tone, he said, "Walk with me." Nicole hesitated for a split second before nodding. Every step felt heavy as she followed him through the showroom. The place suddenly felt too bright, too exposed. Her employees' eyes trailed after them. Once they reached a quieter section, Stallone finally stopped, glancing at a black Aston Martin DB's Superleggera. He ran a hand over the sleek frame. "You like this car?" he asked. Nicole swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. It is one of my favorites." He nodded. "Mine too." Silence stretched for a beat, then, "You know why I bought this place?" Nicole shook her head, uncertain. Stallone let out a soft chuckle, almost like he was reminiscing. "Because once, when I was younger, I walked into a dealership like this, and they treated me like I did not belong." He turned to face her. "Kind of like what you did today." Nicole felt her chest tighten. This was it, she was done. But instead of firing her, Stallone just sighed. "I get it. You worked your way up. You had to be tough, had to keep the wrong people out. But the thing is, sometimes you do not know who you are looking at." He took off his sunglasses, meeting her eyes for the first time. "You ever hear that phrase, 'Every champion was once a contender who refused to give up'?" Nicole nodded slowly. "Yeah." Stallone gave a small smirk. "I said that." She felt a rush of embarrassment, but also something else. Respect. Not for herself. For him. He put his sunglasses back on. "You are good at your job, but being good at your job does not just mean knowing cars, it means knowing people." Nicole swallowed the lump in her throat. "I understand." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Good." Then, just as casually as he had arrived, he started walking away. Nicole blinked. "Wait, what does this mean?" Stallone paused, glancing over his shoulder. "It means you still have a job." Relief flooded her, but then he added, "For now." Her relief vanished. Whether she kept it, that was up to her, and just like that he was gone. Nicole stood there breathless. She had not been fired, but she had not been forgiven either. Now she had something to prove. Nicole felt the weight of Stallone's words settle deep. She still had a job, but only because he was giving her a chance to fix her mistake. The humiliation still burned, but something else began to take over. A need to prove herself, not just to him, not just to her employees, but to herself. She had spent years perfecting her craft. She knew cars inside and out. She knew the numbers, the sales tactics, the psychology of high-end clients. But today, she had learned something she had never considered before. She did not know people as well as she thought. The dealership felt different now. She saw it with new eyes. Over the next few days, she made small but deliberate changes. She started watching people differently. When an older man in a faded polo shirt walked in, she did not assume he was a time waster. She had an actual conversation with him. And by the end of it, he had placed an order for a brand new McLaren. When a young black man in a hoodie strolled through the showroom, rather than making a snap judgment, she approached him like any other customer. Turned out he was a record producer looking to buy his third Ferrari. It was humbling. Every day she saw a reflection of her past mistake, and every day she corrected it. But there was one thing still lingering in her mind. Would Stallone ever come back? She did not expect him to. After all, he was a busy man. He owned the dealership now, but he had a dozen other businesses, movie projects, brand deals. So when 2 weeks later, he walked through the doors again, she felt her entire body go rigid. This was it. Had she done enough? Had she proven herself? Or was this the day she would finally be let go? She watched as he took his time strolling through the showroom, glancing at the cars with the same calm, unbothered energy. Then, without warning, he turned to her. "You have been working on it." Nicole stood tall. "Yes, sir." Stallone nodded, looking her over as if assessing her. Then, for the first time since they had met, he gave a small, satisfied grin. "Good." He gestured toward a Bugatti Chiron sitting in the corner. "Now let us talk about my car." Nicole exhaled. She was not fired. She had earned her place, and this time she was not about to mess it up. The sale went through flawlessly. Nicole handled it personally, treating Stallone not as a celebrity, not as a billionaire, but as a customer, a valued one. When the paperwork was done, he leaned back in the plush leather chair of her office, arms crossed, watching her with that same quiet intensity. "You did good," he said simply. Nicole felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she did not just feel relieved. She felt different, more aware, more in control. Stallone stood up, adjusting his jacket. One last thing. Nicole straightened. Yes, sir? He tilted his head slightly. What did you learn? She did not hesitate. That I was running this place like a gatekeeper instead of a leader. Stallone's expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes, and he pressed. And? She took a breath. And that success is not just about knowing the product, it is about knowing people. A pause, then Stallone gave a small nod of approval. Now, you are getting it. With that, he turned toward the door. Nicole watched as he walked through the showroom, employees giving him respectful nods. This time he was not just the owner in disguise, and she was not just the manager who had made a terrible mistake. She had been tested. She had learned. As he disappeared through the front entrance, Nicole felt something settle inside her. She had changed, and that was worth more than any sale. Judgment is easy. Understanding is harder. Nicole thought she knew who belonged in her showroom, but she had let her own biases blind her. She almost lost everything because of it. Every person has a story you do not know, and sometimes the ones who seem the least important are the ones who matter the most. So before you judge someone based on appearance, status, or assumptions, ask yourself, what if you are wrong? Because one day you might find out the hard way. If this story made you think, hit that like button, and if you have ever experienced or witnessed something like this, drop a comment below. Let us talk about it. And remember, treat everyone with respect. You never know who you are really talking to.